So, Mayor Mamdani of New York City has come out and said that he wants to have people be emergency snow shovelers. And I thought this was a great idea, right? When I first saw the headlines, I said, this is a great idea, especially where I live. I feel like that is something where, if you don't have a job or you're looking for some quick money, if you're, a teenager just looking to do something for the day, why not make a few extra bucks? But somehow the internet made this a negative thing. And their biggest thing that they were sticking to was that he was requiring 5 forms of identification to shovel snow. Now, mind you, I was confused when I saw this backlash, y'all. I'm not going to lie. I was confused because I'm like, what do you think his motive is to say bring in identification? So of course I had to go and look into it because I'm just not going to believe some tweets and some retweets and some people being angry, right? Let me go look on the website as if I was going to apply for this and see what they're requiring. So they're requiring you to be 18 years of age, eligible to work in the United States, and able to perform the duties, meaning lifting this heavy snow. What they required you to bring would be 2 original forms of ID, including your photocopies, and a social security card. So that in total, I guess you could say is 5 things, right? 2 forms, 2 copies, and your social security card. Where I got confused at that and why I didn't understand why this was such a newsworthy headline is, has anyone applied for a job lately? Has anyone went out and applied and got the job and been asked to bring certain things? Because when you apply for a job, there's certain implications, especially for a company, especially for a municipality where the money they're spending is taxpayer dollars. Okay. So you have these federal regulations that you have to abide by. Therefore, people who come in, whether they come in to work for a day, a few hours, trust me, I know, they have to fill out something called an I-9. And on that I-9, do you know what it asks for? It asks for proof of identification. And that proof of identification could be 3 things. It could be 1, your passport. It could be like a card, identification card, whether it be a driver's license, a state issued ID. It could be a birth certificate. It has to be something that proves, basically your identification, right? Who you are. And then the other can be a social security card. So if you have your driver's license and your social security card, then you've met the requirements of that I-9 form. Please Google the I-9 form if you've never had a job and you've never had to do this before. But most jobs, they will either ask you to bring it, and then what they do is once they collect those items, they go behind the scenes and fill out this paperwork. But coming from a girl who used to work in human resources, I have completed hundreds of I-9 forms, and I can tell you, those are the 2 easiest things to tell people to bring, especially when you have an I-9 form, because I feel like people don't know this. Maybe you've never had a job, so this seems like outrage, right? To ask for identification. When you have this I-9 form, understood, you have to attach the copies to show proof that you saw this form, that you are witness that this form did exist. It was valid. It was a hard copy, yada, 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 right? Now, the 2 original forms of ID, the reason why I think he's saying that is because a lot of people will bring stuff and it's like, how did you think this was an identification card? A driver's license, sure, but is it valid? A lot of people have a driver's license and it will get my words out. It will have been expired for the past 3 years. You know what I mean? They're just walking around with it because it has their date of birth on it. You got me? I've had people, be like, oh, this is my, gun license. That is not a form of identification. They'll say, oh, this is my school ID. Given the age, maybe, but they said 18 years of old, so you most likely are a high school graduate or something like that nature. That is not a form. So bringing 2 helps to eliminate the confusion of not being able to accept 1, especially when you live in New York City where a lot of people don't drive or have their driver's license. Bring 2 so we can eliminate all this confusion. And if you bring your birth certificate and your social security card, boom. If you bring your identification, like an identification card from the state of New York and your social security card, boom, you can work. I don't know why this was such a big deal, but what I can assume is, remember when Mamdani was running, there was a bunch of billionaires. There's one in particular, right, who did not want him to be mayor. They were trying to do everything they could to not have this man be mayor. So, with that, I just believe anything that he does, they're going to try to get the media and to get people to twist it and make it a negative thing. But if you've worked a job, it could be, fucking Taco Bell. You need to bring these things. They ask you to bring these things on your first day. On your first day, they say, "Oh, do you have a driver's license, a social security card? Okay, bring that." You go, you sit with the lady who hired you, right? She makes copies, she gives you it back. They do that because they need it per certain federal regulations. So why this is such a non-starter to me to make it seem like it's an issue. The issue is they didn't want Mamdani in that seat. So they're going to constantly nitpick his entire term. Everything that he does, they're going to scrutinize and they're going to try to blow it out of proportion so that, people are upset at him and people kind of disapprove of anything that he does. But at the end of the day, this isn't anything like to be mad about. Let's be honest. This is nothing to be mad about. You can have some 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds who weren't going to be doing anything anyway and have them go, shovel Central Park and, clear the roadway, clear the sidewalks and make some money while doing it. I don't see the problem. But who am I? I'm not a New York City resident, so I don't know. I just thought I'd offer a little bit of insight into why this is absolute craziness. With that being said, let's jump.